Hello, so welcome to this next video for COMP3218, Game Design and Development at the University of Southampton. My name is Dave Millard, I'm one of the lecturers on the course, and I'm here with...
Ioan Daniel Malinov, and I'm one of the demonstrators on the course.
Brilliant. So for this coursework, we asked the students to produce a game that had a strong core dynamic and a tutorial level. So we're going to be looking at a number of games and going through our criteria and seeing what they're like. Okay, so our first game is Space Raiders. So here we are, the door locked behind me. I need to find another way out. So I've got, okay, sort of faces where I'm going. I don't think it showed me how to move, but I'm presuming that WAS does the job.
Yeah.
So it's kind of missed out. It's missed out on telling me what the instructions are. I've got a gun with a cooldown. Oh, so I need to be careful. This ship is full of monsters. All right.
Okay.
I find another way out. So here we go. I can shoot things with left click. All right. I can charge a power shot with the right click. So I can't do it that. So okay. I like the fact they're making us play through it. So I can't destroy it. I have to charge up. Ouch. I see. And then I can...
Yeah. Okay.
Right, it says my power shot. I've got a health bar up in the... Whoa.
Oh.
That's a bit of a nasty surprise. There we go.
So once you kill all the enemies, then I guess you can continue.
Yeah, that seems to make sense. Let's go through this door.
Dash over pixel space.
What do you think that is? Is that a... oh, it's a gap.
Oh,
okay. I can dash over pixel space. Yeah, that makes sense. Okay. Nope. What do you think that is?
Oh wow, okay, so that's a movable.
So I guess...
Can you move it with your body?
Good question. Yes. So I just noticed that the creature could move it as well. I was trying to figure out...
Exactly.
They're trying to show me so I can block them in. Okay. I was trying to figure out what they're trying to show me here. I guess the creature was moving it, so you could see that you could move the crates. Maybe that was the plan.
Yeah. I guess. I mean, yeah. Once I saw the creature moving the crate, I was like, probably I can do the same. So that looks like a bigger enemy.
Uh-oh.
And it fell.
But that's interesting. So I died, and then it fell down the hole.
So the creatures cannot dash through the pit. So you can use that to lure them, I guess.
Yes. Oops. Oh, I have a horrible feeling they're going to reappear then. So do you think I can kill these? No. Oh, I can. So
it took one...
Yeah. So it's a bit like the armoured crates. Let's go through here. Oh, here we go. What are those?
So they're not moving. Okay.
They sort of shoot you.
And they go away from you.
Can I shoot that? So you can kind of use these for cover, I presume?
Yeah, I think.
Okay. Right. So, but I just need to get through this level. Or
can you actually go through without killing them? Okay.
No, it looks... so these are actually walls.
Yeah.
For some reason I thought I was on a platform in space.
Yeah, same.
But that's why these look like that, so they're distinguished from... It might have been a good idea to make this a different colour and then just go for black for the holes.
Yeah.
But it kind of makes sense. Right, let's go through here. Hearts. Okay, so I've not been getting... There's no music, but I'm getting some interesting sound effects. So I get a little clink sound when the bullet hits something, and I got a little oh crikey.
A boss.
Oh, fell in there.
Try to charge. I think you have to, yeah.
Am I doing anything, or do I need the powerful shots?
I think you need the powerful shots.
It's quite nice though, quite a nice little boss fight.
One left.
Yeah, here we go. Hooray, complete the tutorial. Fantastic.
Oh, that was the tutorial, wow, okay.
But where do I go now?
I assume that would be the, maybe the end of the...
Perhaps it is, perhaps it is. Alright, I'm going to load up again. And let's see. No, so I think the whole level is the tutorial. So should we start going through the mark scheme?
Yeah, sounds good. So the first one is about quality and the sub-criteria presentation, information design, and aesthetics.
So the audio is a bit simple. There's a few simple sound effects. It would be nice to have a little bit of atmospheric music going on, I think. But I quite like the graphics. I mean, they're very basic, but they work. They're clear.
Yeah, they're consistent.
And information design, up in the left corner there, I've got my health. I've got a cooldown. Not entirely sure the cooldown is that useful, but the charge is nice. It's a nice.
Yeah.
The only thing I would say is that it might have been good to put it actually above the character, because that's where your eyes are.
Yeah, that's actually a good.
But yeah, I mean, there's kind of it's simple, but it's effective, I think. So what would good be for?
Well, that's key information is shown clearly. Graphics are consistent, appropriate use of audio, effects, or music.
Okay. So I think that probably they maybe could have done a bit more with the audio.
Yeah.
And the information display is a little bit simplistic. But it's probably nearly at that level. So maybe halfway between good and satisfactory.
Yeah. So satisfactory information is shown, consistent graphics, some audio. Yeah. Effects or music.
So I think it's the some audio effects. So halfway between the two for that one, I think.
Yeah.
So what's next?
Let me just. Okay. So what's next? Next is gameplay, mechanics, and controls.
Yeah. So the controls are pretty nice. They're quite snappy. It feels like. The only thing I would say is that because the shooting is quite slow, it's not that satisfying. But that's not really a problem of controls as such. And you can imagine in a proper game, I might eventually get a better weapon and all that kind of stuff. But yeah, it's very responsive, very easy to use. I mean, I do feel like I'm actually playing.
Yeah, on my side on the screen it doesn't look that responsive, but that's because of the internet.
No, it's very responsive. It's doing okay. So I think kind of what would be good for this category?
So good would be a set of complementary mechanics and smooth usable controls that leads to meaningful play.
So the set of mechanics is interesting. So what do you think the mechanics we've got here?
Well, shooting. So you can either shoot normally or wait and charge it.
Yeah.
There's the dashing over pits.
Yeah. The pushing stuff like this.
Yeah, and then you can also destroy the crates, and that's. So, for example, you can use the crates in this case to take cover from the shooting enemies.
Yeah. So I've got the bits that I fall down. So actually, there's a reasonable amount going on, isn't there? I mean, it's not kind of a massive amount, but for a small playable prototype. It's quite good.
Yeah.
So I think kind of so it feels to me like it's at least at the good level. What would be excellent?
So that's a wide set of complementary mechanics and intuitive and smooth usable controls that lead to enjoyable and meaningful play.
So I'm not quite sure if it counts as a wide set.
Yeah, it's.
But what is here is used well, and it does lead to meaningful. I mean, it is quite fun to play. I think it probably is at the good level. I think it's probably not quite at the.
Yeah. Yeah, like I can see later on in if they continue with the game, the mechanics then can be looked in more and then expanded and.
Yeah.
But what they have there, I think it's good.
Yeah. Okay, what was our next criteria?
The next is bugs. Is there anything that you?
I don't think so. It all looks to me like it's working okay. So I mean, part of the bugs thing is also how complex it is.
Yeah.
But I think this is a relatively, it's a reasonable level of complexity. There are no bugs. For me, I think that's probably at the excellent level, isn't it?
So excellent is game is playable and it's reasonably complex. There are no obvious bugs.
I think that's where we are.
Yeah, there's definitely complexity. And okay.
Oops.
Okay, so that I'm putting excellent on that.
So once we're past this, we're into kind of the brief, the things we actually asked them to do, which I guess is the tutorial and the level design.
Yeah.
So what do we think of the tutorial?
The strange thing is that at the beginning I don't think they tell you that what you use to move.
No.
The keys, but they tell you to shoot, I think. Do they say the mouse is?
Yeah, let's go and look at it because we've been through it a few times. Let's just look at it from scratch again. So here we go. So it gives you a goal. I need to find another way out. Doesn't tell us how to move. Doesn't tell us what the mouse does, but that's fairly obvious. I suppose if I wasn't actually holding the mouse, it wouldn't.
Yeah, exactly.
So that I've only got the mouse because it's running as a windowed game. So yeah, I think that's a problem. I like the fact they got the goal. They do, like you said, shoot things. That works. I like the fact they've got this progress thing. So they tell you like the shot and the armor.
Oh yeah, that's.
But then we're straight into kind of enemies. Nothing says. There's nothing that says you have to kill the enemies to get out, but of course that's kind of demonstrated. Through play.
Yeah.
These things is odd. So I think they've just shown us here with this enemy that fell down the hole.
Yeah, exactly.
The problem, I think the first time I didn't notice it, but I did notice it then. So I think it's a bit of a mixed bag on the tutorial. They do some things really nicely. Like there they show you can lure enemies. Here they show the holes there.
Yeah.
And then they just sort of forget a few basic things like this is what your actual controls are, like here they've done a really nice job of showing you that you can push these crates. Yeah, that's great. I mean that's actually, there's no need for any text. They've demonstrated it.
Yeah, exactly. So maybe they assumed that everybody would start playing with WASD or maybe the arrow keys. I'm not sure if they work.
So I think that the very first game I made in Unity was I did something similar. You use the arrow keys to move, and I sent it to somebody to play for me, and they said, well, it looks great, but I can't figure out how to do anything at all. And it's just because I'd forgotten to tell them to use the arrow keys. I just thought it was so obvious. And it's not, right? You have to tell people. Yeah. Okay. So, nevertheless, they've done a lot of things right. So, what would good be for the tutorial?
So for tutorial design,
Yeah.
good would be a mostly integrated tutorial that communicates most goals, risks, rewards through level design, and that introduces information and mechanics in a logical way that fits with what has gone before.
So, frustratingly, I think, other than the basic keys, that they have achieved that.
Yeah, exactly.
So, what would
Satisfactory or
yeah?
excellent?
What would excellent be? I wonder if they some of these bits count as being in the excellent category.
Well, excellent is integrated tutorial that communicates goals, risk, rewards. So the only difference is that good is mostly integrated, while excellent is, I guess, completely or integrated tutorial.
Yeah. So I think it's mostly integrated.
Yeah, definitely. There's
Yeah.
a few.
So maybe, despite maybe we should, because they failed to tell us the basic controls, maybe we go for between good and satisfactory.
Yeah.
It's kind of
wait.
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's mostly good, but those controls are missing. Yeah, or maybe we're being a bit harsh because they have done some nice stuff to demonstrate what they're doing. Should we put them down as good? It's
yeah, I think good. Yeah, because it is mostly integrated.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, you're right. I mean, and things like this. Look, so I pick up the health. There's nothing else in this room, and it's right before I get to the boss level as well. So it's quite nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so what's the next category? Level design.
Yeah, level design, and I think they've done a good job with the levels.
Yeah.
So good would be a sensible level design that demonstrates a number of mechanics with good pacing and some clear goals, risks, rewards.
So actually, I think you're right. I think that although the tutorial is a little bit hit miss, I think the level design is really nice. Starts off very simple. You know, this room introduces enemies, but there's nothing else in the room. There's no other obstacles. I go in here, and now I've got, well, I suppose this is teaching me about using the floor. But then now I've got obstacles, and I've got so I think they've done a very nice job of kind of gradually introducing all of the elements.
Yeah,
I think if you were going to be complaining about it and being particularly sort of picky, you might say that they could have done a little bit more advanced stuff for the level design. That these are relatively simplistic rooms, but as a means of teaching you how to play the game, it's very effective.
Yeah, I think for a tutorial it's good, and then later out of the tutorial they could make better, more sophisticated places.
Let's see if that's that fall down a hole. Yes. So what would be excellent for level design?
Excellent would be a sophisticated level design that demonstrates a wide range of mechanics with good varied pacing and balanced goals, risks, or rewards. So
I think one of the problems they've got is, what are the goals, risks, and rewards?
So you have falling down the pit, which.
But if you think about different ways of attempting the level, are there different ways of completing this? Are there
yeah. I mean, for example, you could either lure the enemies to fall into the pit or shoot them before that.
But what are the rewards for doing that? So there's so normally what we'd expect is, for example, have different paths through a room, one of which gives you bonuses but is more difficult, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think one of the problems is that they don't have any rewards. So without any rewards, there's no easy way of doing the risk reward business. So the only thing I can think of is you could potentially have two exits from a room, right? One of which is clearly, you'd have to explain to the player somehow that one progressed further towards the end of the level than the other one, right? But to get through the exit, which is quicker, is far harder. Lots of enemies to defeat. So
Yeah.
something like that. But otherwise, you need an actual reward in the game to be able to say to somebody, okay, if you attempt this harder thing. So the other reward, I guess, they have got at their disposal is the health.
Yeah,
So,
that's the thing that I was thinking about. Health is the only, I guess.
that's quite nice.
Yeah. The only finite resource.
Yeah.
Or, I guess. Yeah. But if you die, I guess you respawn immediately without a lot of.
So it doesn't really make a lot of difference anyway, because you come back into the room. Yeah. So I think they have a problem in their level design with the goals, risks, rewards bit, but the pacing's really good. So what would be satisfactory for level design?
Satisfactory, a sensible level design that demonstrates some of the mechanics with an attempt at pacing and some goals, risks, rewards.
And what would be the one below that?
The one below that is a level design that demonstrates some of the mechanics, but poorly balanced or paced, and with lack of clarity over goals, risks, rewards.
So I think the problem is that their goals, risks, and rewards thing is there. A lack of clarity over goals, risks, rewards. It's, but the other stuff is probably up at the good level.
Yeah.
So maybe overall it's a kind of satisfactory for the level design.
Yeah, in the middle somewhere.
Yeah.
Because they do have good level design overall, and the pacing is pretty good. But yeah.
But there's just no kind of. There's no choices to be made. That's one way of putting it. What are the choices I'm making as I go through the game? And there really aren't any. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you can choose to not pick up the health here.
Yes.
But that doesn't really reward you a lot.
So like, yeah. So here, for example, I'm fighting on this bit here, but I've got no incentive to dash. So what about if even if like on here, they put a health on these other platforms. So I had to dash over, which is a bit more difficult to get the health. Yeah. So this is a place where they could, I think, put that in. I think then was the next section the core dynamic.
Yeah, the core dynamic.
So what do you think their core dynamic is?
So just to be sure, for the level design, we put down satisfactory.
Yes, I think that's right. Yeah.
Okay. Well, the core dynamic is, I guess, destruction, because you're killing the enemies and progressing through the. Yeah.
So so that's what it feels like to me. The only thing I would say is that there's no. There's no reward for killing the enemies other than progress.
Yeah.
But at least there is that. So you have to kill everything in order to progress. So it is just about, I think, coherently destruction. So what did they say in their game notes that their core dynamic was?
So they do say the core dynamic of our game is destruction.
Yep.
We have reinforced this theme by making the core gameplay loop the fact that you need to shoot all the enemies in a room to be able to progress to the next.
So that's nice. So they've picked up on that is the progress element, which is good.
Yeah, so the tools given to the player revolve around this dynamic as well. The normal shot and charge shot offer different methods of shooting enemies, each with their own advantages, and some only working on some enemies.
Yeah.
The game ends with the player fighting a boss at the end of the dungeon, requiring them to use all the tools at their disposal to shoot and defeat it, winning the game.
Yeah, okay. It's not quite true, because you don't have to use the dash, but I'll let them off. So I think the core dynamic, it feels to me that it works quite well. That because you have to destroy the enemies to progress, it links together. The game's clearly about destruction. The climax at the end is a destruction climax. You fight a boss and have to defeat the boss. Yeah. So what would good be for?
So actually, they also say that they also avoided some mechanics to try to reinforce the theme of destruction. Okay. So they haven't included a timer.
No.
So the player doesn't have to race to the end.
Yeah.
and no puzzles or collectibles in the game, as this would likely distract the player from the core dynamic in such a short game.
That's true. Although you can put stuff in that's in service to destruction. So, for example, if one of the things you collected was something that helped you to destroy things,
Yeah,
right?
better gun.
And the same is true of the health, right? The health is essentially something you have to collect, but it helps you in your destruction game.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. Okay. So, what was good for?
So good was a clear core dynamic that suits the theme of the game, and that is well supported by the primary mechanics and mostly appropriate audio-visual choices.
Okay. So I think they've definitely achieved that. What would excellent be?
So excellent is a clear core dynamic that suits the theme of the game and that is well supported by an integrated set of mechanics and appropriate audio-visual choices.
So that's interesting. So how integrated is all the stuff here? Does it kind of create a coherent experience? So it kind of is. I almost wish there were one or two other things you could do. So maybe I should try. Like, can you squash enemies, for example, or like I like the fact that you can push these crates off the side, but it doesn't seem to have any utility. So
maybe if there was an
enemy on the other side and I could push them. Yeah.
Yeah.
So I feel I don't think they've done anything wrong. It's more that I feel they've missed the opportunity to do it more.
Mm-hmm.
So perhaps for this we should put them sort of halfway between good and excellent. Because there's elements of excellent here, but they just needed to do that little bit extra to integrate things. Yeah,
I think the same. Dynamic. Yeah,
so
it looks like just a bit more.
So does that take us to the feedback?
The feedback.
So what do they say for feedback?
So that's quite a long feedback. Let's see. One of the main pieces of feedback for our game was the need to encourage the player to progress. This was the main reason we made it so you'd need to destroy all the enemies in order to progress, as before we had it so you could simply press a button to open each door.
Okay.
Not only did this help with our dynamic, but it gave the player a clear goal for each room.
Yeah.
We also adapted the story of the game slightly so that it's clear the only way the player can escape the dungeon they're in is by reaching the end of it.
Yeah.
Okay, so another piece of feedback was from the very beginning, and initially we had planned for the game to have a few small puzzles that would need to be solved to finish the game.
Okay.
So we were going to incorporate this because they would let us demonstrate some other possible uses to do with the shooting mechanic. But after feedback, we realized that our game is too small to define itself as a destruction game with these puzzles. And they decided to remove them as to not distract the player.
Right.
Which is good. Then a small adjustment we made was to some of the room layouts and enemy placements. Initially, we had a slime pushing some boxes to demonstrate that to the player and the pit room empty, but we moved the slime to the pit room after feedback told us players would instinctively push the boxes anyway, but not dash over the pits.
Yeah. Okay.
We also added a falling animation because it wasn't clear that they were falling. They made a lot of finer adjustments to the mechanics through playtesting.
Okay. So it sounds to me that the one really big successful change was to make it that you had to destroy everything in the room to progress, right? And that immediately clarifies what the game's about.
Yeah.
So what would be good for feedback?
Good would be, let me see. Feedback was articulated and reasonable changes have been successfully made.
So it feels to me like it's there, doesn't it?
Yeah. So yeah.
Okay. So a really nice game, but kind of, just sort of a lot of potential, I think. They could have perhaps done even more with it. But yeah, really good. Okay, should we move on to the next game?
So that would be good. Okay. Well, just to be sure, they also do talk a bit more about the audio and
Yeah.
the hit. Does the player make a sound when they are hit?
Good question.
And
let's find out.
Because it should, I think.
Yes, makes a boom sort of noise.
And okay, yeah. So I think they did mostly. I mean, is it maybe between good and excellent? Because they do talk about a lot of
you're talking
very small feedback.
Small changes as well. Yeah, I think that's probably fair, actually. Yeah, let's do that.
Okay. So yeah, I think that's all.
Brilliant. Okay, I'm going to see if I can defeat this boss. But, yeah, and then I think we should probably move on to the next game.
Yeah.
I made the mistake of moving over there. That's what it was. Hey, right. Oh, I fall in a pit. All right, brilliant. Okay, let's go on to the next one. Okay, so our next game is called Overrun. Here we are. So we've got a menu screen. Best time, play, quit. I guess we go straight for play.
Yeah.
WASD arrow keys to move, left mouse button to shoot. Okay, shooting doesn't seem to do much. Oh, ammo 0. It's a bit odd to tell me to shoot when I haven't got any ammo. But there you go. Oh.
Yeah, ammo 0. Okay.
What is shooting? Is it? You lose. Restart. Can I go through a door? Do you think they should have... am I supposed to go through there? I've got ammo.
My video screen is a bit... okay, now I think.
Oh, so there's no ammo in this room. As soon as I pick up the heart, the door behind me disappears and I can go and get ammo.
Yeah, I see.
That's very odd. That's an odd decision. Right, okay.
I mean, I guess I can see where they are going with that. Like, they want you to explore more and yeah, something like that.
It's also, I'm not quite clear where stuff is appearing again. It's kind of a bit odd. Let's go through here. So there's another health bar. Through here. Oh, there's a different type of enemy. You run out of ammo. The ammo and my health are way out of my line of sight. So I've got absolutely no idea as I'm playing how much ammo I have.
Yeah, I see. So in this case it would be again maybe better if the ammo is near the player somewhere.
I think so.
Above the player.
Also, there's just millions of things. Can I go in there?
Help.
North area has opened. Previous time, you lose. Restart. So I presume from what this is setting up that I just have to try and survive for as long as possible.
Okay. Yeah, I mean the timer is there and it looks like survival, you know, a finite amount of ammo.
Why should I shoot anything, do you think?
I guess the survival, like to not die and then...
You lose. What did I lose then? But I don't
So just a heads up, the screen share that I'm seeing is very choppy, and I'm
Okay.
like I don't have the full picture of what the game is, but I mostly think I can get what it is.
Yeah. Okay. So I should. So I'm kind of. I mean, there's. All right. It's very responsive. It's quite fun to play. It's quite fun to shoot the bugs. I'm just kind of. I'm a bit puzzled by what I should be doing.
Yeah.
Because I get points for surviving.
Yeah, so the timer is the one thing that, you know, when you start the game and you see the high score, I guess. I think I can't remember, but
yeah,
I think it was like that. So
oops.
I assume it's something to do with the more time you survive, the higher points or something.
So kind of helpful to shoot some bugs there. Okay. You lose.
Wow.
Previous time 105. Is that my actual time, do you think? So, yeah. Okay, so shall we start going through the marks criteria? I think we can sort of see the shape of it.
Yeah, okay. So the first one about quality is presentation, information design and aesthetics.
Yeah,
and
so
it looks
pretty nice, doesn't it?
Yeah, it looks consistent, top view, and nothing out of place, I think, from what I'm seeing.
Yeah. So there's no music, but I've got nice sound effects. I pick stuff up. Gun makes a nice makes a nice sound.
Okay.
There we go. Let's go up here. Yep. Oh no, sort of a dead end. Run out of. It would be nice if it made a sort of clicking noise when you ran out of ammo or something.
Yeah. Are the enemies infinite? Do they continuously come, or?
Yeah, they just sort of appear. Mostly off screen.
So you can't just stay in one place and wait.
No, they'll kind of come and get you. Northern area has moved up. Oh, there's another one there. So I'm not entirely sure. There's different coloured bugs, but I'm not quite sure what they do. Oh, those ones have got ranged attacks.
Yeah.
So the ammo and things seems to spawn as well. So yeah. So in terms of graphics and things, I mean, I think it looks really nice. I think it's got very consistent graphics. Audio's a bit basic, but it is there. Yeah, the kind of the aesthetics of it are good actually. Yeah.
So what sounds like it's. So satisfactory is key information is shown, consistent graphics, some audio, effects or music, and good is key information is shown clearly, graphics are consistent, and appropriate use of audio, effects or music.
So I think that it's probably good. I think that the things that might make it a bit lower are the information design. The information is a bit far away from where you are. It doesn't give you feedback on things like when you run out of ammo. So at the beginning, for example, I was firing and it didn't seem to be doing anything.
Yeah.
It doesn't give any feedback. So yeah, and the lack of a strong soundtrack.
Yeah, exactly.
So maybe. Yeah, but I still think it probably deserves a good. I think.
Yeah, so appropriate use of audio. I mean, there is effects. I think you said, like,
yes,
when you get hit.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's either 65 or 70.
Yeah,
So-
let's put it for good. Let's put it for good.
Okay. So next one is gameplay, mechanics and control.
Yeah. So actually,
And-
it's pretty good to control. Actually, I kind of feel there really is quite a good set of meaningful play. I can definitely engage. I'm thinking about what I'm doing. It's challenging. The controls work really well. Sort of classic overhead shooter structure. Yeah, so I think definitely in terms of the controls, I've definitely got usable controls that are intuitive. I think in terms of the meaningful play, I get meaningful play. So that sounds like it's sort of around a good again.
Yeah, exactly. So a set of complementary mechanics and smooth usable controls leads to meaningful play.
Yeah. Okay, and then so then the last category here is bugs appropriately, right?
Yeah.
So other than the ones that we're supposed to be killing, I don't see any. It looks like it works pretty well.
And the game is, I think, is it complex? It has enemies quite a lot, and the
I mean
areas.
It's not overly complex, is it? But it's so what have we got? We've got kind of mechanics wise, we can shoot. We've got areas that open up. We've got ammo that we pick up. We've got health that we pick up, and we've got different type of enemies. So yeah, I think it's reasonably complex. Yeah. So I think that probably for bugs puts it on the excellent, actually.
Which is game is playable and is reasonably complex. There are no obvious bugs.
Yes,
I mean,
so.
Except the bugs that you're killing.
Yeah. I'm gonna try your strategy now.
Which one?
Which is just to stand here.
Ah.
Yeah. So okay, so that's bugs. What's the next category?
So just say excellent on bugs. The next is level design on fulfilling the brief.
Yeah. So what are the things we're looking at here?
So for good, for example, the criteria is a sensible level design that demonstrates a number of mechanics with good pacing and some clear goals, risks, rewards. So you have to do a lot of the talking here because I'm looking at a slideshow at most of the time, so I can't really comment a lot on.
So in terms of the level design, so if we think what we've got here, so in terms of things like pacing, there's definitely some good pacing going on, right? Because as you progress through the level, and in fact over time, so just then I was stood still, and it still started to release new enemies, and some of the enemies are faster than others. Some of the enemies shoot. So I think as you play, it definitely builds up over time. In terms of does it demonstrate a set of mechanics? Yeah, I think so. I mean, it kind of, like I said, the mechanics are a little bit limited, but it definitely shows them off. It would have been nice to try and do something a little bit more interesting. Maybe with the collectibles, maybe with a different type of weapon, something in the environment that you might be able to use to kill the bugs as well as your gun. That kind of stuff. Yeah. But in terms of the level design, what that really means is there's not an awful lot for the level design to show off, right? But there are some little snarly bits to get caught on. So yeah, it's effective. So what was good?
Good was a sensible level design that demonstrates a number of mechanics and good pacing and some clear goals, risks, rewards.
So what about the goals, risks, and rewards element then?
Yeah, I mean there is the from what I see, I mean, there is the fact that you have a limited amount of ammo and you have to collect it.
Yes.
And you can either choose to use more bullets and then maybe run away from the enemies, or keep them for yourself until something really bad happens, something like that.
Yeah.
And
It's again, I think the problem is there's not enough to make a choice about. Right? So my job is to kill the bugs. I suppose there's a choice of, do I stay in one place or do I run around? And you could argue that's maybe a choice, but it doesn't appear to be. Doesn't really change my experience hugely when I do that. There's the choice of whether to shoot the bugs or to run away, but again, I've got to shoot them eventually anyway. So I think the pacing is good, but I think that there's maybe an issue with choices and meaningful choices. They needed to do a little bit more to differentiate between different ways of playing the game or different routes through the game.
Yeah, I see that.
So we've got risks in that we've got the bugs, but what are the rewards? So you can imagine where. So you can imagine if the health and stuff didn't regenerate, you could argue that now I've got to. My risk is I run around and I run into more bugs, but I pick up health. But because it regenerates, I can essentially get health and ammo just from staying in one place. Okay. So what was satisfactory?
Satisfactory would be a sensible level design that demonstrates some of the mechanics with an attempt at pacing and some goals, risks, rewards.
Yeah. So my feeling is that it's probably halfway between the two. That the pacing is probably at the level of good, but the aspect of the goals, risks, rewards is probably down at the satisfactory level. So in between the two, I think.
Yeah, I think the same. Okay, and then the next one is the tutorial design itself.
Well, so if I die, let's restart and have a look. There's not an awful lot of tutorial, but I think probably the reason for that is, so if I exit to menu, so I don't have a particular tutorial, so if I go in, WASD arrow keys to shoot, WAS to move, left mouse button to shoot. I pick that up, the door disappears, and that's the end of the tutorial, isn't it? So it does tell you what to do. The doors kind of don't really behave in a coherent way anyway, so that it can't really teach you about the doors. The doors just sort of randomly appear or disappear according as to how they want to control your play through the level. You do immediately pick up an ammo thing, so it kind of teaches you that. But it's odd that you don't start with ammo. So I think there's an attempt to kind of teach you how to play, but again, the lack of complexity means there's not enough to teach. Yeah. So what would satisfactory be for tutorial?
So satisfactory, let me see, is a partly integrated tutorial that communicates some goals, risks, rewards through level design, and that it introduces most information and mechanics in a logical way.
Yeah. So I mean, are they even there? What's the pass?
I mean, they do introduce, I guess, the bugs.
Yeah.
Slowly, which I guess counts as part of the tutorial.
Yeah, it's one of those games where you could argue, you're kind of learning as you're playing.
Yeah, and pass would be a tutorial that communicates some goals, risks, rewards, and that introduces some information and mechanics in a logical way.
I mean, my feeling is it's probably more down there. Maybe maybe a little bit higher, maybe between pass and satisfactory, because they've tried to get the level to kind of introduce these elements gradually.
Yeah.
But you know, the controls they have at the beginning, I think, which is fair enough. But then there just isn't anything to teach you. The game's so straightforward. And then when you introduce the elements, so when they introduce the bugs that fire and they tell you about it, but they don't show you. When they introduce the bugs that are quicker, I don't think they even mention it. So I think, yeah, probably between pass and satisfactory, I think.
They do say area unlocked with faster enemies, I think, or something like that.
Let's have a look. I remember them saying area unlocked, but...
And then it says what kind of enemies there are. I remember that with the ranged enemies, and with the faster ones.
So I think the point is that they shouldn't have to tell you, right? This stuff should be evident from the level design. So they unlock the area. It should be obvious that the area is unlocked, because that's my only way to go now, is to go through there, right? When I encounter the bugs that shoot, they shouldn't have to tell me. I should see them, right? I should. I should be in an environment where the fact that they shoot me is emphasized. Yeah?
Yeah.
So, for example, if you had pits that the bugs couldn't cross, right? And all through the rest of the level, I'm happy whenever I see a bug on the other side of a pit, I can shoot it at my will because it can't get to me. And then it introduces the bugs that shoot, and they can shoot over the pit, right? So this is the sort of thing that they're missing, I think, in their design. Okay.
Yeah, that is.
So that's sort of between a pass and satisfactory seems about right for the that was the tutorial level, wasn't it?
For the tutorial
yeah. Okay. So
next one is the core dynamic.
So I'm presuming they're going for destruction, or are they going for survival?
Yes,
survival.
Yeah, survival.
It's a mixture.
Think because,
What have they said?
So what they say. So the core dynamic our game possesses is survival.
Yeah. Okay.
Because I guess you have limited amount of health and ammo, and enemies constantly spawn to kill you. Which I think does make it clearly survival, in my opinion.
Yeah, it's very close though. So in general, a survival game. So the things that work for it being a survival game are the fact that your success is measured by a timer. So it's irrelevant how many bugs I kill, right? That's definitely good.
Yeah.
And the fact that the limited ammo. So I don't have, I'm not hugely empowered. But
exactly.
I'm not completely defenseless. And there is quite a lot of emphasis on destruction. I think they probably do just about get away with it. What did they say about their core dynamic in their game notes?
Yeah, so what they continue to say is the basic idea of our game is that the player will have to survive an onslaught of enemies with a capped amount of ammo and health. Around the map there are pickups the player can pick up to restore ammo or health. These pickups will respawn after 20 seconds, which we believe is long enough to keep the player moving instead of staying in one spot. There are UI components to help represent the player's current ammo and health.
Yeah.
The main point is that the ammo is currently capped to 30 bullets. This prevents the player from just gunning down the enemies, as they would run out of bullets before all the enemies are dead.
Yeah.
So they would need to move around to continue to pick up ammo.
Okay.
And they also talk about the timer then, which shows how long the player has survived.
Yeah. So I think those elements are good. So the limited ammo, the timer, and you do feel a bit overwhelmed by the enemies.
They do say that as time moves on, the difficulty will increase by increasing the spawn rate of the enemies.
Yeah.
So you are, I guess, you want to do it faster.
So what would be
not stay?
So for core dynamic, what would be good?
So for the core dynamic, good would be a clear core dynamic that suits the theme of the game and that is well supported by the primary mechanics and mostly appropriate audio-visual choices.
Yeah, so I think they could have done a bit more, you know, perhaps with the audio to give you a sort of sense of impending doom. But I think it probably is just about good. I think.
Yeah, it does.
It's certainly
Like
not...
I could. Yeah, I could tell the dynamic. So it's, you know, there is killing and destruction, but I could clearly see it's not only that, and it's more survival than destruction.
Well, it's interesting. I mean, my initial reaction was, "Oh, is it destruction?" But that's because that's my primary thing that I'm doing. So
yeah,
you know,
exactly.
And again, it's kind of, in a survival game, you probably don't want the primary thing to be killing. You want, you know, if you can have a little bit of destruction, but you want the primary way of evading the enemies to probably be something else. But at the same time, as I say, I think they just about get away with it. They've got enough elements elsewhere in the game aligned properly with survival. So yeah, I think probably good. Okay, what's the next criteria?
And the last one is the feedback.
So what did they say? What was their feedback?
Let's see. So one of the feedbacks we were given was on how we wanted to introduce different types of enemies. Currently we have 3 different types of enemies. The feedback was that the enemies should be introduced one by one.
Yeah.
And that the enemies shown next to each other, right? And that the enemies shown next to each other to show the difference between them.
Okay, yes. Okay. Because if they were all in different spaces, you might not notice. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. So what we did to incorporate this feedback was have some sort of wave system. So at the start of the tutorial, only the basic enemy type spawns, has about the same speed as the player, and attacks in melee range. Then at 45 seconds in, the second type of enemy will spawn, which is a faster version of the base type, and at 90 seconds the last type spawns, which is a ranged enemy.
Yeah. Yeah. So I mean,
and then the other thing that the second piece of feedback they got was that which was to have the map initially be more constricted and later more areas will open. This is relating to how, as a survival game, the player needs to collect resources, ammo and health, to keep the survival going, or else they will lose. So we had it where to each new waves, a new area will be available to the player to restock on resources.
Okay, and that kind of works. I think they've done they've not made dramatic changes, but the changes they've made do work, and they're things that we commented on, right? They introduce the enemies gradually, and all that stuff. So what would be good for feedback?
Good for feedback is feedback was articulated and reasonable changes have been made successfully.
Yeah. So I think that's probably true, isn't it?
Yeah, I think they explained it pretty well and they did the things well.
Yeah. Yeah.
And excellent on the other hand is feedback was clearly articulated, interpreted, and reasonable changes have been successfully made.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think there's not much analysis going on about what they've done. They have implemented what they're asked to do, and it's effective. So I think that's a good. I was hoping I might survive a bit longer, but there you go. All right, shall we move on? Shall we move on to our next game? Okay, so our next game is Mental Aerubiks. So sounds a bit Rubik's Cubey. Here we go. So I've got a lot of loud music, so I'm going to adjust my volume mix.
Yeah, that's a good idea.
There you go. Make it a bit quieter so we can hear what's going on. Actually, that's really loud. All right, there we go. Okay, so moving. Use WASD or the arrow keys to move. Spacebar to jump. Navigate the goal to complete the stage. And a little X to get rid of it. Oh, my life. Okay.
Interesting. Wow.
So what did it say? Oh, okay. And then, congratulations. Next stage. Okay. Rotating the cube. Click on a face to select focus. Click the green arrows to rotate.
Then backspace to reset. Ah.
Okay. So, so I can't get through there. What happens if I fall off the edge? Okay. So I can only rotate. So I can only rotate the top row or the side row.
Aha. Okay.
So I can use that to jump over.
To jump.
And I'm there.
Yeah.
Okay. Next stage. Moving goals. Yellow goals rotate with the cube face they are on.
Aha. Okay.
Okay, why can't I get in there?
So, is that a wall? Ah, yeah, I think.
Oh, I see. So I might want to do something like this. Can I jump inside there? Yes, there we go. All right. Time freeze. Oh, we're getting mechanics thick and fast. The player will not move when the cube rotates. He will also pass through any platforms.
Okay.
Right. Oh, I see. Oh, ha. That's strange. Okay, so how do I know there's a time freeze? Oh, wrong way.
Yeah, I'm not.
So I'm going to do that, and then I collect it on my way out. There we go. Okay.
Okay.
This is, right. So I haven't got any... Oh, there we go. They didn't appear till I'd... I've got ones in the middle now. So it changes which one we're on. It's an interesting idea.
Ah.
I think perhaps one of the problems is that you can't see where the platforms are on the other screens, right?
Yeah, it's a bit.
Yeah, there's a little bit
hard.
of a bug in the rotation animation as well. I don't know if you can see that. They kind of, but that makes kind of seeing what's going on a little bit tricky. So I'm looking for anything which has got a platform on. Oh, I can. They didn't tell me that, but hang on a second. There's one missing.
Ah.
So I didn't know that I could use the left mouse button to move it around, but I can.
Ah, okay.
So... okay. But I've got no platform. So how do I... Oh, I can... if I can click on the thing. So there's a couple of things here they didn't tell me. So I can click on a level, right? So if I click on a cube, it will allow me to rotate that cube.
Yeah.
Oops. So I can... now it makes a bit more sense.
I think they did say that, but
we just didn't notice.
it was just one window and you didn't really try them. Or you didn't realize it.
So if I wrote... because it's time frozen. So how do you supposed to know if time is frozen? Do you think there's a way of telling?
So
if I move that... that's going to stay in the same place. So I'll just fall straight off if I do that. But there's no other platforms on here that I can see. Okay.
Can you jump to the... Or maybe rotate the
so I'm...
front face clockwise. So you
Yeah.
fall onto the
Oh, I'm now
Go.
I've now kind of completely messed up my view. So there's no other platforms. Also, I don't know if you remember, we had that gap in one of the sides. That looks to me like it was a bug because there's no gap in any of these sides at the moment.
Yeah.
Yeah, if
Yeah,
if I rotate the middle platform, then I'll just fall off because I don't move. There you go. Off I go.
Or rotate the front face clockwise. So you rotate it and you fall onto the goal. Yeah, okay.
The goal doesn't
I
move.
see.
So the problem is I don't move. And as soon as I do that, I fall off. Yeah, yes, I'm a bit stuck. So I think we understand how to use the puzzle.
Yeah.
And I jump. So it's a bit odd, but yeah, sort of odd that I can mess up my viewpoint quite so much. So the gravity is no longer facing downwards.
Oh wow.
But you know, so if I'm at an angle and I jump, it's still oriented along the axis. Okay, so how do I do this? So if I turn, so it makes no difference because there's no platforms to jump onto. There's nothing. So one of the problems I think they've got is that they have a tutorial that's taken us through the different mechanics that they have. But they never do anything with the mechanics once they introduce them. They literally, it's like, introduce mechanic, next mechanic, next mechanic, next mechanic. Whereas what they probably should be doing is introducing a mechanic, here's a puzzle with that mechanic. Introduce a new mechanic, puzzle with that mechanic, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So I kind of feel like, so what I'm missing is, where's the thing where I have to jump around platforms and just rotate the cube to get the platforms in the right order? I kind of haven't even had a chance to do that yet, and yet I'm facing something else.
Yeah.
So if I jump and no, you just freeze. Yeah. So it's so if you jump and click an arrow, you freeze while it moves. I can't see how to do this because I've got no. Yeah, I've got nothing to work with. Have I?
On the green side, what are those? Are those
lines.
platforms?
No, I think they're the shadows of the arrows.
Ah, okay.
Yeah. Also, so that cube's missing now. If you can see, I can't quite get to it, but
Yeah. I think I see that.
just here. But I think that's a bug. I don't think that's supposed to be missing.
Probably.
Yeah, I think it hasn't moved properly. Here, so now I'm on my side. Look, and if I jump,
Yeah, it's confusing.
Yeah. Yes. Okay. All right. I'm gonna restart it so we can go back through and have a look at it again, and perhaps we should go through the criteria.
Yeah. So the first one is presentation, which consists of information design and aesthetics.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the graphics are mostly, I guess,
They're consistent, but they're a little bit scrappy, I think. But they kind of work. You know, you kind of see what's going on. Let me go over this one. Oops. The music's quite nice actually. Other than being a little bit loud, but it's quite nice. It sort of fits the contemplative aspect of the game. There's some nice little sound effects. So I think all of that works quite well.
Okay. So good in this case is key information is shown clearly. Graphics are consistent, appropriate use of audio, like effects and or music.
Yeah, so the problem then is I would imagine is information design. So what have we got? So we can see fairly clearly what we can change. That works. The goal's quite clear. What's not so clear is what else is on the cube. So there seems to be, I mean, that's sort of an inherent problem with it, really. And what do the colours mean? Like, it seems to me it's kind of irrelevant what the colours actually are. Oh, there we go.
I assume.
So
yeah.
Yeah. So I'm trying to think. Yeah. Number of moves 9, and also this thing here, number of moves 9, and I've got no stars. So it's like, well, how many moves would 2 stars be, or 1 star be, or so I think kind of in terms of the look and feel, I think the music is probably, and the sound effects are probably at the good level. The graphics are probably at the satisfactory level, and maybe the information design is at the pass level. So my feeling is that overall it might be a pass.
Overall,
I think, yeah.
A pass.
I think so, yeah.
What about? Shouldn't it be then around satisfactory?
Sorry, yes, yeah. That's what I meant. Overall, satisfactory between the two. So we've got pass to good.
Okay.
One is pass. One is pass. One is satisfactory. One is good. So it should be a satisfactory. Yeah.
In the middle, yeah.
Yeah.
Next one is gameplay, like mechanics and controls. So there's quite a lot of controls from what
there is. So jumping around and kind of doing this, it's sort of a little bit clumsy, but it does work, obviously. They didn't tell us the controls, but once you figured out what they are, it's not too bad. Yeah, it's sort of, yeah, kind of. So okay, so this is kind of mechanics, controls, and gameplay. So the controls are fine. The mechanics, what are there? So we can jump, we can rotate the cube, and there's platforms, and that's it. So it's quite a simple set. And is there meaningful play? Just about, I would say. It's quite lacking, though.
Yeah.
I mean, what would a pass be?
A pass would be few or inconsistent mechanics, challenging controls, leading to limited meaningful play.
So I would say that the controls aren't necessarily challenging, but the rest of that is probably right. So, and satisfactory presumably would be somewhat improved on all of those.
Yeah, a set of mechanics and usable controls that leads to some meaningful play.
So I think it's maybe between a pass and satisfactory. It's kind of there's a very limited set of mechanics. The controls are fine, but there really isn't an awful, there's a little bit of meaningful play. That might be down to the level design. I guess we'll get to the level design in a minute.
Yeah, okay. And I mean, maybe what if after this level they have something very different or better instead of mechanics?
Well, if we can't see it, we can only judge it on what we can see. So
yeah.
And this is kind of. Do you think if I click this, can I? I'm wondering now is if I actually move. No, I can't because my. Oh, blimey! Can I just jump for it? Do you think?
Almost.
If I move it, no, because it doesn't move. What if I jump and then? Nope. Because I don't
time.
Because I don't interact with it. Okay, what's the next criteria?
For so on okay, on gameplay that bugs is the next one. And from what I gather, I did see some, for example, one of the cubes vanishing or something like that.
This might work, right? So if I
yeah, okay. Yeah, something like that.
Okay, so I think if they had made this a T piece, it would have made a bit more obvious what to do.
Yeah, definitely.
Got there in the end. Right, a gate button opens and closes red and blue gates. Okay, so here's some more mechanics. Approach one and press E to open the blue gates and close red gates. Press it again to reverse it.
So now we have gates.
But I need a button. So they've told me about buttons, but there's none visible on the screen. Can you see a button anywhere?
Maybe behind.
I appear to have got squashed in a. Yeah, it's kind of very. Blimey. Yeah, sorry, where were we on the mark? Oh, there's one at the top.
Yeah. So we were at bugs.
Yeah. Okay, so there's obviously quite a few bugs. You can see there's bits missing. I'm stuck behind something at this point. They've obviously struggled to kind of to create the geometry of the cube. I kind of appreciate what they've been trying to do. Yeah. So there are some issues. I'm back out again now.
For example, satisfactory is game is playable and is reasonably complex, but there are infrequent serious bugs and or frequent minor bugs. So I think it's quite a complex game altogether, or it looks like it's quite complex.
It is, but I would say that there's frequent minor bugs. Although how do I interact with a button?
E. I think it was press E.
So why do I have to press a button? Why does it just automatically click it? Alright, there we go. We're through. So black goals are locked until you collect all the keys on the stage. Great. So I wonder whether what they should have done that would really help is before you start the level, the camera comes in and shows you the sides of the cube. Sort of zooms in.
Yeah.
Because otherwise there's a key up there. Right, but I got to get up there. Now I'm white now. Does that mean that I move with the? No, I still haven't figured out whether I move or not. Yeah, so I would say that the bugs are frequent, minor bugs with a relatively reasonable level of complexity. So where would that put them?
That's on satisfactory.
Yeah. Okay. So I think that's kind of where we are. Yeah. Okay. Let's get on some of the others. What's the next criteria?
So that's from the brief and its level design. So.
Although actually, look at this. So
a good would be. So yeah, a good would be a sensible level design that demonstrates a number of mechanics with good pacing and some clear goals, risk, rewards. So there are mechanics, quite a lot actually, but they're introduced very quickly one after the other, I think.
Yeah, I think
and then not really used.
Yeah, I think that's the problem, isn't it? It's a whole load of new mechanics, whereas what we want is, I think this is we've had quite a few games which have had too many mechanics, and too few mechanics, and I think this is the opposite. There's too much going on. What we want is fewer things, but to have them integrated better together. So introduce the platforms, let us learn the platforms. introduce I don't know, the buttons, and then give us some stuff with buttons and platforms, right? And that would, you know, that would have been much more effective. It almost feels like every level is an experimental game in its own right, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
And also, actually, the nature of the puzzles is quite mind-bending. So they should have started probably with some simpler ones about navigating around the cube and about moving platforms into place before going for some of the more complex ones. So
Yeah, definitely.
So presumably I can, yeah,
Somehow get the key, but we don't really.
but I can't actually get up there. I can't move the key because everything I stay fixed and the key stays fixed. Sorry, we were talking about level design, weren't we?
Yes. So
I think the pacing's a bit off because they introduce so many that they do have graduated pacing, but they introduce so many things, so many new things that it kind of feels a bit rushed, and it feels that you could never truly appreciate the mechanics that they've got in there as they're introduced. What were the other what are the other elements that we're looking for?
So level design that demonstrates a number of mechanics, good pacing, and clear goals, risks, rewards.
So the goals, risks, rewards again is not quite clear to me. They're alluding to it because they're saying that you get 3 stars for completing the level in a certain number of moves.
Yeah.
So I guess they're saying if you can come into a level and figure out the shortest route to get there. But then the level design I don't think shows that off. I think mainly what you're doing is faffing about trying to figure out how to do it, rather than there being multiple routes to doing it. If that makes sense.
Yeah.
So normally what you would do for that is, games like Cut the Rope, for example. You've got to get to the end goal, but it's the number of things you collect along the way that determine how many stars you get. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's easy to get there without collecting any, but quite hard to figure out how to get there with getting all of them. So what would
that's a very good example.
So what would satisfactory be?
Satisfactory would be sensible level design that demonstrates some of the mechanics, with an attempt at pacing and some goals, risks, or rewards.
So what would pass be?
Pass is a level design that demonstrates some of the mechanics but poorly balanced or paced, and with lack of clarity over goals, risks, rewards.
It does feel a bit more like that, doesn't it?
So because of the mechanic after mechanic after mechanic, so it is...
Yeah, and that lack of clarity about the goals and risks and rewards and what you're trying to actually do. I think.
Other than complete the level, yeah.
Yeah. That feels right to me. So then we're on to the tutorial.
Yeah. So the tutorial design.
So in a sense, the whole game is a tutorial, isn't it? I'm gonna reduce the music again because it's quite loud. Still very loud. I turned it right the way down. 1. So yeah. So yeah. Okay. So we've got kind of I'm trying to remember what the tutorial was now. Well, the whole thing is kind of introducing it to us gradually. So I do appreciate the fact that they give us the mechanics one after another. They give us the basic controls at the beginning, but they fail to tell us about how you select things to rotate. They didn't tell us that you can spin round. So they missed quite a bit out. What would satisfy?
And for example, when you the button, the level with the button, it took you a while to find the button, and then when you found it, you forgot that you have to press E.
So it wasn't
which is again. So satisfactory That's a partly integrated tutorial that communicates some goals, risks, rewards through level design, and that introduces most information and mechanics in a logical way.
Okay. Hang on then. Nope, that's not going to work. Yeah. So it does. I think it introduces most of the mechanics in a logical way. What were the other parts?
So most information mechanics in a logical way. The other is a partly integrated tutorial that communicates some goals, risks, rewards through level design.
Yeah. So I mean, it does tell you the goals. It's a bit wordy, but it kind of fits. What would pass be?
Pass is a tutorial that communicates some goals, risks, rewards, and that introduces some information and mechanics in a logical way.
So I think it's I think it's the communicating your goals, risks, and rewards bit that's problematic. It does introduce the mechanics in a logical way.
Yeah.
So maybe it's either just satisfactory or a bit below. What do you think?
Yeah. It's either between them or satisfactory.
If we're in doubt, let's give it satisfactory. I mean, they have introduced the mechanics methodically, and you do sort of learn how they work, sort of by experiencing them. So let's go with that.
Yeah. Next one is the core dynamic, which I think it's pretty clear in this case. Puzzle.
Yeah. So what did they say?
Yeah. So what they say is the game that we settled on was a puzzle platformer utilizing the rotatable aspect of a Rubik's cube. The player would play along the face of the Rubik's cube to reach a goal by rotating moving parts into place. Yeah. The core dynamic of this game is to be spatial reasoning, as the player should have to visualize and deduce which parts of the puzzle will move where, when they cause a rotation. We also decided that we could tutorialize movement and mechanics as we introduce them. The idea would be to explain a new mechanic with text and then give the player a puzzle utilizing this mechanic so they gain a full understanding. And to prevent them overwhelming the tutorials, the tutorials would be spread out between levels, with a few levels at the end of the prototype, utilizing multiple of the previously introduced mechanics. We also attempted to implement a reasonable difficulty curve to keep the player engaged. So that's all.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think it clearly is a puzzle. Oh, here we go. So this looks like they're finally starting to integrate stuff. So I've got lots of keys.
Yeah.
So yeah, just to go back to that. So I think they're clearly right. It is a puzzle game, and in terms of all the mechanics, they do all fit. There's nothing in here that stands out or which is opposed to that. All the things you're doing, all the things about collecting stuff like the keys, they're all in service to the puzzle game. So I think all of that's really quite clear. So what would good be for core dynamic?
So good is a clear core dynamic that suits the theme of the game and that is well supported by the primary mechanics and mostly appropriate audiovisual choices. Which I think it does.
Yeah, I think so. What would excellent be?
Excellent is a clear core dynamic that suits the theme of the game and that is well supported by an integrated set of mechanics and appropriate audiovisual choices.
Yeah. I don't think it's quite up there, but I think it's probably counts as good. So, by the way, I think I've just found a more serious bug. So it looks like I can interact with stuff and then here I'm completely stuck. So I jumped up, I activated the button, it switched the gate across and locked me in place, but I can't restart the level or anything. So in fact, I think I might be completely Oh, I can rotate. No, I'm still in trouble. But if I got rid of that. Oh, there you go. I freed myself at least. And now I'm kind of stuck. Yeah, it's something...
Okay.
I think it's because they've gone with the actual physics system to manipulate your position on here, and that's why you're getting all these funny... Yeah, you're getting all these funny... I know the lighting seems to have gone a bit strange.
It does, yeah. But
okay.
So back to the core dynamic, I think from what I gather, it is good.
Yeah, I think so. I think that's where we are. I think they everything is pulling in the right direction, but it's just not quite kind of coherent enough. But yeah, but still, I think it hits the good level.
Yeah. Okay. And the last one is the feedback.
Okay.
Which what they say is that during development, we gained feedback from multiple sources and chose to reflect on the ideas given and include them in the game to make it more user-friendly. The first source was from the feedback session with module moderators. The main point put forward here included not making tutorials too wordy and to give the player feedback based on performance. We implemented this by cutting back the number of words in the tutorial, explaining the important mechanics for the current stage, and using sprite icons to represent objects of interest. For the latter, we decided to implement a star system at the end of the stage where the player would be... Oh wow, wait, what happened?
Yeah, it just went completely bonkers. I think we might have to revisit the bugs thing. I think we've discovered a few more serious bugs, but yeah, sorry, you were...
Okay. Yeah, so what they say is for the latter, we decided to implement a star system at the end of the stage where the player would be awarded 3 stars for an optimal solution, 2 for a good performance, 1 for a satisfactory attempt, and 0 if they took more than double the necessary moves.
So fair enough. So
which they don't.
Yeah. But so they
don't say how many. Yeah.
But that is one of the things we mentioned, was that star system does make it better, right? I think they were successful. But
so they do also say that this allows for some replayability as a player.
Yeah.
Who wants to perfect the game. And one final note that was added was the needed for a concise interface. It was this comment that led to our decision to keep buttons shown for rotation to be attached to the cube as models rather than buttons on the UI layer, as we would found that the latter made the interface appear cluttered.
Yes.
Yeah, it does.
Yeah, I mean, I think I wouldn't say they've been wholly successful in the things that they've done, but I think it has improved things. So what would satisfactory be for?
So satisfactory feedback was articulated and some changes have been made with partial success.
So that feels right to me. They've kind of. So I think in all, I mean, it's quite a complex game, and actually, it's one of the few games we've seen which I think would have benefited from being slightly simpler and slightly more straightforward.
Yeah.
With an easier route into it. But yeah, an interesting and really interesting puzzle idea. So. Okay, so actually that was our last game. So we'll see you in the next video.